Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of our webinar on implementing headless e-commerce. Today we are going to talk about the global e-commerce rollouts. I'm really excited to present my next guest, Jonathan Ribas, CTO of the famous French fashion brand Zadig Voltaire. Jonathan leads the team who moves Zadig from Magento 1 online shop to headless Magento 2 with the unified Vue Storefront PWA frontend. They already have rolled it out to more than 10 markets, including France, Italy, Portugal, and other European countries. Hello, Jonathan. It's really cool to have you here. Thanks for accepting my invitation.
Hello, Piotr. I'm very pleased to be here also to speak about this great topic with you.
Maybe first tell us something about your experience.
Yeah, so I work in a digital area for more than 10 years now. I acted as a developer, a lead developer, a CTO, a CEO also when I was living in Brazil, when I moved back over there in 2009, sorry. It's where I knew Magento. All the story started at this point, and it's where I fall in love with e-commerce. And then I decided to focus my career in this very interesting area with a lot of challenges.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. So you came from Brazil to Europe, started with Magento. That's amazing. How you found yourself at the steering wheel of Zadig's technology?
Yeah, so it all happens after several experience in e-commerce retail, especially the luxury ones. I started. I worked as a solution architect on an awesome international brand, which is called Hermès. It's a French luxury brand. I was part of 8 architects and almost 80 developers. We were
huge team.
Yeah, very huge team. So for an organization like this, we were separated in feature teams. So we had like a catalog team, customer and conversion team, and other ones also. And then I had the opportunity to join Zadig Voltaire. I think I was ready to take the challenge to build a new architecture for the next 5 years business plan.
Well, that's awesome. Working with the 80 developers surely make you ready for it.
Yeah. But it was very cool. The team was from Nantes. It's another city in France. And I was moving from Paris to Nantes every week. And the team was very friendly. It was an awesome experience, really.
How you make 80 people working on like in the same area, probably different projects, but how you make them effective, because it's really a challenge, right?
Yeah, it is. That's why we separated them in I think 8 teams at that moment, and we were like moving developers between teams. For them to see the whole architecture that was very complex also with a headless approach too, with APIs everywhere and a lot of Java also on the backgrounds for the catalog integration into a PIM, and then PIM to Magento, Magento to the front end. Yeah, it was quite a complex one. It was a couple of years ago already, but was very good experience.
Nice. Let's back to this Zadig and Voltaire project. I remember we first met on kind of call, Hangouts or something around 2018. What was the challenge you faced back then when we first met?
Yeah, I perfectly remember this call as it was yesterday. Guy, the time just fly. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I had a lot of challenges, to be honest, on this project. First of all, I had to convince the team, the digital team, and the top management for an agile way to deal with projects. It was not the case before I arrived. I needed also to show...
They used to work with waterfall, right? Before.
Yes, it was more with waterfall, yeah. Because a lot of priorities changed. So that's why they were used to work like this. I will be honest, today it happens sometimes. We change
Right.
priorities during the sprints. It's not the good way to do it, but business first. So we need to
Sure.
do it. And for the challenges, I had also showing some first results with a POC on Vue Storefront that we will talk about later. Choosing a partner to deal with the replatforming and also the hosting part. Choosing a rollout strategy, which is very important for our business, and also giving priority on features that we saw it wasn't possible to do them for the launch, for the MVP, on the initial scope, So we needed to discuss about this with the team a lot of times. And other two big challenges was the first launch on PWA with Magento 2 for our first country, and the first peak access we got from newsletters. I will tell you more about this in a couple of minutes.
You mean peak access? You mean the high traffic, high loads, right?
Yes, high loads coming from newsletters and stuff like this. Yeah.
That's interesting. I will surely ask you about it later.
Yeah, and we also did a TV approach a couple of weeks back. So yeah, it was quite challenging. Also, cool.
Awesome. You're the global brand, so I guess the whole project of unifying the front end was somehow related to your rollout strategy. You said that this rollout strategy was very important.
Yeah, exactly. We are an international brand present in Europe, USA, Middle East, Asia, Australia, so all over the world, I will say. Our idea was to have the same front end to serve all our countries and also empower all our local teams with the same tools, just to facilitate the communication and the skills learning between all our teams.
To make it also probably more reusable, right, between the markets.
Yes, also, and also the part of the costs for sure, because doing specific for every countries can cost you a lot of money.
So business-wise, what are the most important, I would say, non-technical aspects of implementing the global rollout strategy?
Yeah, we couldn't risk our business doing a big bang effect, changing all our countries at the same time. That's why we decided to do a progressive rollout, taking care of SEO, which is very important for us.
So how you picked this first market to apply the new architecture on?
So we decided to launch one of our smallest markets in Europe for the first launch. We choose a new country that we weren't addressing before in a specific website. We chose Portugal. So for our digital team, we also needed a small country in terms of business, because we would need to maintain two platforms at the same time, the old Magento one and the new architecture. And we have not a very big team, so we can't have the two ones running on the biggest countries at the same time.
You said Magento 1, and I remember that, not sure if it was on this first call or the second call we had, we were discussing this, and it was pretty important part of this selecting Vue Storefront for the project, because Vue Storefront supports Magento 1, Magento 2. So I remember this support was pretty important. I'm not sure, but maybe it even convinced you to go with Vue Storefront, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. Because at that time we weren't sure if we will plug the PWA directly on Magento 1 or if we would wait for our complete migration to Magento 2. So that's why we decided to do this POC, implementing our actual design in Vue Storefront for just three kind of the main pages we have in e-commerce, which is the home page, the product landing page, and also the product display page. And that's why it was very important for us to have it working on Magento 1 and Magento 2, because we were not sure at that time.
So it gave you this flexibility to not do any kind of revolution, but to test PWA features and other stuff first, and then decide on the backend changes.
Yes, exactly.
For our listeners, POC means proof of concept, so it's usually something you can implement pretty in pretty short period of time, usually 2, maybe 4, 6 weeks, something like this. What else convinced you to go with Vue Storefront? I always asking this question, and I love to hear the reasons.
Yeah, I can understand. It's normal, and it's important for you guys also. Um, to be honest, the POC worked like a charm. We were very happy with the results in a short amount of time. We were convinced also by going to visit you guys at Divante's office. It was very interesting discussions we had together, and your whole team. And we saw that you had a strong technology team and a very business oriented company. So it was very convincing. And it was one of the most important key points that VSF is open source and agnostic platform, because and also an headless architecture that can help us doing separate developments
Right.
with several developers at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The community aspect was very important for us, as we were used to work with Magento 1. It remembers the old times, you know, like when if everything was growing, hackathons starting to happen in Europe and stuff like this. The Slack
Right.
community growing every
Yeah.
day, the GitHub also with a lot of conversation going on. So that's why we decided to move with Vue Storefront. We were sure that it will be a success.
Awesome. We a few days ago, I talked with Philip and folks from the core team, and we were doing a revisit of the hackathons idea. It was really cool. Last year we had almost 20 something hackathons, and now this COVID situation changed everything, and it's no longer a viable idea to go across the Europe and do hackathons.
Of course, yeah.
Sadly. Sadly.
In a couple of
S-
months, it's gonna be okay. Let's hope.
yeah, hoping for that we will be back to this hackathon concept. Okay, let's go back to the project, because it's really interesting one. So you said that headless architecture, open source also, but headless architecture itself was one of the key decision points for picking Vue Storefront. But they always need to bring some business value in the end, right? This architecture. And what's headless means for you? What's the most important feature of implementing headless architecture?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, really. I will say performance. As you know, we want to create the best user experience for our
Yes.
new visitors and also our customers.
Okay. So the USP for users and performance, which is actually part of it, right?
Yes, the page speed is very important. We have still room for improvement on it,
Right.
but we are very happy with the first results.
Awesome. So let me go back to this proof of concept idea, because I guess it could be interesting for some of our listeners. So I remember we did the workshops and then this proof of concept implementation on Magento 1 within just a few weeks. I not remember how long it took. It was 4, 6 weeks, something like this, right? Showing the
Yeah, it was
yeah.
3 weeks to 4 weeks maximum. It was
Okay.
less than a month. Yeah.
Right. And I remember that the goal was to showcase the PWA features. So, from your perspective, how this proof of concept help you pushing this whole project within Zadig and Voltaire organization?
So in a very short period of time, like less than 1 month, we were able to integrate our current design for the homepage, the PLP, and the PDP. So it was quite impressive, and all the native features for M1 were working for us. So
Right.
it was very interesting, and we saw that it was stable. We didn't test everything like scaling it and things like this, but locally it was working very fast. I did some demos for our team and the top management. They were very impressed, and they couldn't wait to see the rollout happening. So it's where all started, let's say, for this PWA project.
Awesome. I can imagine the demo. You probably was really stressed to show them the results, right?
Yeah. I was like, I hope it's gonna run at that time of the demo, but no, I had tested quite a few times before, and everything was working perfectly. So no problem. I was not so stressed.
Good to hear that. So in the end, you are on Magento 2 right now. My question is if you considered any other platform than Magento 2 for migration. This is pretty often a case for sites right now that they are figuring out what platform to choose. How was your case?
Our case, it was a migration running for the US website. We were moving from Magento 1 to Magento 2 when I arrived at Zadig Voltaire. So it was quite obvious, that Magento 2 was here to stay. But if this migration was not in progress, I would took a look at other platforms to make an architecture study on it. In the end, we was M2 for merchandising and taking orders.
Right.
We are not using it for the CMS part and other fundamental applications. So, yeah, maybe we would have took a look at another platforms for sure.
Sure. So the next question is about the process of getting from Magento 1 to Magento 2. The migration is something a lot of people are scared about. How this process looked like?
Yeah, so the process started for the US team, actually. They did a totally new project from scratch. We just took the most important features for an MPP, and it was not an easy process because sometimes it happens in the middle of the road. You find that you forgot something, a very important one, and then you have to decide and prioritize and maybe implement it instead of another feature just to keep the deadlines. We had very hard times. Our team knows about this. A lot of discussions about this happened in the past.
Right. It wasn't easy way, but you succeeded. That's the most important.
Yeah.
How long it took you to implement the first store?
It took 7 months of intensive and hard work with a team of almost 6 developers, let's say.
Right.
We had some developers for the front end part and also the back end, of course, in order to implement everything. And we also built an in-house orchestrator to communicate between M2 and our IT application. So it was 3 applications at the same time. That's why it was 7 months of hard work.
This orchestrator, you mean a kind of middleware for integrating the systems?
Yes, exactly. Right? For example, we take all the Magento 2 orders that are approved in our PSP, and then we create like a file for our IT team to take those files and send them to our warehouse for the picking and stuff. And then when the picking is done, they send us what we call the ship confirm, and then we have the capture done by this orchestrator on M2 and also the shipment.
Okay, so it's fully automated.
Yes, it's fully automated.
Other than that, what was the other biggest challenge in implementing this first store you encountered?
Yeah. Can I have two? It's possible.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, so the first one, it may be simple, but integrating our catalog from the PIM to M2 and then in Elasticsearch and then VSF to take the data from Elasticsearch was not an easy one. We had a lot of trouble with the different kind of attributes, the multiple select attributes and stuff like this. It was not very easy to do. That's why I planned like a sprint 0, let's say, to start this integration at that time. So in the first sprint, we were already working on the catalog integration because I knew
hard things first.
Yeah, I knew it will take several months to be ready. So that's why. And the second one was hosting a PWA. This one is, I think, my worst nightmare on this project, to be honest.
Why so?
Yeah, I was not used about Node.js. I never run an application on Node.js before, so I had no expertise on this. I was thinking it was like easy, like hosting a PHP application, but you need to have a totally different approach. Like for microservices, like maybe you need to have just some kind of containers just for serving the catalog, and then maybe other ones for communicating with your Magento 2. You don't have to have a lot of long processes running because Node.js is main thread, so monothread. So that's why it was complicated for us. We were not understanding why it was not as fast as we were thinking it should be, So it was a lot of conversations with you, but we will speak about this later.
Yes. I have a special question on scalability later on, because I knew that was an interesting point with this project. We spent a lot of time talking about this and digging into New Relic.
Yeah, it's true.
That was fun times. I also learned a lot about Vue Storefront by this exercise we did together.
Perfect. That's fine.
Okay, but before we get into this aspect, I have a few more questions about this rolling out process. You have more than 10 sites up and running for different markets already. So if I ask you, what are the key aspects of rolling the next stores? So in the other words, what stays the same and what changes? What would you say for this question?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge was the business window to launch new websites that are very short. As retailers, we have a lot of key moments during the year where we can't risk any business. So the idea was doing a release with some new features for the next countries to roll out, just to have something new, between this time, because sometimes we had very short period, where we can launch, like we have maybe 1 month, so we need to be ready for this. And between then, we also had a lot of testing and bug fixing between each releases. Like, I think we are deploying more than a time per week.
Wow, that's awesome. Sounds pretty aggressive, the time frames you're given.
Yes.
So maybe you already answered to this question saying like 1 a month, but the question was how long it takes to introduce a PWA into new market, because I saw some releases even in 2 weeks span, so it's even shorter than you said before.
Yeah, after launching all the main countries, now it's way faster to implement a new one. But just if we are using an existing language, if we are using the same shipping method and the payment
Right.
methods also.
Right.
I would say less than a month, including all the testing part in all our browsers. We have the most access. Yeah.
So you say that if you have a market that doesn't require new features, right? So no new integrations, no things like this. It's pretty short. So
Yes.
how this process looks like in this case? Let's say you have just new market, no new features, the same payment provider. The payment providers are very often global solutions. So maybe you don't have to do any custom works on that. So this process, how this process looks like on your end, like the merchant side.
Yeah, we have some important questions in our rollouts process. First of all, we check the currency. Is it one that we are used to support or not? We check also the language, if it's an existing one or not. The shipping and payment methods, we take a look locally if we can implement a payment method that is very useful in this country. I will give you an example. For Portugal, multibanco is very important, and in Belgium they use a lot of bank contact. So we also check if we have a specific integration to do with a partner for this country, and other questions like this, and then we can have like an idea of how much time it will take to launch this new country.
Right, makes sense. And the other case, when you need the integrations, what then? And how often it is a case that's some really particular things differs between countries?
It's mostly today it's on the shipping methods and also the payment methods, and maybe the e-marketing tools we are using. Sometimes we are using partners for specific countries and not other ones. So it's the main integrations we have today, different ones,
Right.
from the core model.
I think it's pretty smart strategy to go. Limits that effort on your side, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you launch this first job, and usually after you launch something totally new, and the first job was something totally new, I guess you need some stabilization period after this first launch to fine tune everything. You said that there were some challenges regarding the hosting and other things. I'm really interested how this stabilization period look like for Zadig.
Yeah, we had a very long stabilization period. I will say today we also have all the time a stabilization period. It's quite complicated as we move fast. We also have to stabilize things. We are trying to be better on this part, and we have a lot of testing internally on mobile, desktop, but real life is not the same.
Right.
The first calls to our support team were very important for us to find bugs that we haven't found before. Users are very special, so
Yeah,
it's
the
really
best
different.
QA team in the world are your users always.
Yes, for sure. So we did also load testings before launching the countries, but real traffic is really different. The first peaks access on newsletters were very complicated to handle. The website went down several times. We found some bottlenecks in our custom integrations. And
Right.
with the precious help of Michael Bouvy from Click and Mortar, and exchanging a lot with you, Piotr, we decided to set up a Redis cache in front of Node.js because it was consuming too much CPU and memory, And we found also a lot of memory leaks in our custom developments. I saw also you guys had fixed some in VSF Core, so we were also looking at the GitHub to check if no new, let's say, backports to be done on this area. And it's very different than a PHP application. Memory leaks don't happen the same way. So,
Right.
and they are also very hard to find comparing to PHP.
Right. It
Yeah.
yeah, it was Vue Storefront 1.7, the version you started, the first shop, something like this.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes, it was the 1.7, and we keep on that version for a long time, in my opinion. But unfortunately, we were not able to upgrade before. Otherwise, the deadlines will be
Right.
compromised. You know.
Yeah,
So
because we really appreciate this feedback we gave from you, we get from you back then, and we fix a lot in the core. I think that 1.11.12 is totally different piece of software.
yes, it is.
Thanks to this support. So I really appreciate it. Thanks once again, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you. You too. We had amazing conversations at late time sometimes during the day, on weekends, every time. And I would like to thank also Click and Mortar and DNG for all the support they provided to
Yeah,
us.
they did a great job. This module you mentioned, this Redis cache, open based on OpenResty and the Lua script, is something we recommend to our new users as well. It's really awesome and it's a huge performance boost.
Yes,
Great
of
job.
course. Yeah, we could have used a Varnish cache, but for us, it
Yeah,
was quite simple to implement the Redis one. It
right,
was very fast with OpenResty, so that's
right.
why we choose this one. This one.
Sure. In between, we added this varnish support. It was community module done by some folks from, I guess, New Fantastic. It's also something that is pretty cool. But actually, for you, I guess it doesn't make sense to change it. This OpenResty works perfectly well.
Yeah.
The next question is about testing itself. I guess you did some A/B testing before you launched this new site to make sure all the KPIs are in place.
Yes. We took a look at
Mm-hmm.
loading time on several devices. As I mentioned before, we also took care of the best SEO migration in order to not
Yeah.
lose our actual ranking and SEO access. It's very important for us. We also earn a lot in accessibility, which is very important in the US, but we are not already on the PWA for the US websites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it will happen next year. But in Europe, it's also becoming a real topic and a hot one. And after
Mm-hmm.
launching all our countries, we see a better conversion rate actually, which is
Mm-hmm.
very important. And we are very, very happy to have concluded this move to the PWA.
Awesome. And SEO wise, have you seen any challenges, problems after you changed the website? Or I guess you probably prepared for this change, right? Doing some redirection and other stuff. How did it look like?
Yeah, we created some maps for our
Uh huh.
category URLs and also the product ones, and also all our content pages. We used a tool which is called Redirection.io, a
Mm-hmm.
very great tool where you can manage all those redirections. You can import them, you can tell if it's a 301 or a 302 or whatever you want, and you just upload those maps, and you have a great dashboard to monitor everything. And we have implemented this part in front of our Node.js application. So when someone hits our website, we check first on redirection.io if the URL exists, if it was an old one, and we redirect to the new one. So it was the key point for our success migration, and also the SSR part on VSF, which is working natively. So it was very important for us too. We had also to implement some stuff regarding canonical URLs and things like this. And we have a pretty good results. It's also increasing the SEO part. So we are very
Right.
happy too.
Actually, we are getting to an end, and my last question, I knew that the answer probably would be a little bit longer. So this is the last question about this scalability, heavy traffic. Can you share some stories with us? I think it would be interesting for listeners
Yes.
to get into real world scalability, Node.js, PWA. Not so many case studies on that. So it would be great to hear how it look like.
Yeah, when we first launched, looking back now, we were really not ready to handle those peaks, but we didn't imagine that it will cause such downtimes. Otherwise, we would have wait a little bit to launch our bigger markets. I was really frustrated, and looking back at our old M1 and handling it way better with an older architecture that was not auto scalable at the moment. We were just having a simple varnish, and it was doing the job pretty well.
Right.
So I wrote a lot of articles, tweets, exchange a lot with you and Michael. We did a POC on Kubernetes, implemented the VSF proxy with Redis, as I told you. We were having better results on our load tests.
Right.
And we also worked hard with the NG agency to remove all unnecessary blocking calls to M2. We rethink some way we were developing things, and also fixing the memory leaks, as I told you. And all of this was the fruit of the success we have right now. We finally
Right.
have an auto-scaling platform on front end and also on M2. As you know, performance is the key for us. And I'm talking about performance in real use cases, creating a great user experience with good quality images. We don't look at everything Lighthouse says to do. We don't care about reaching 80% score or more. It's not a real life, we still have room to improve things, and we are working on it continuously in all our sprints. We have performance stories to address, and I would say last word, that is, don't forget that Rome was not created in one day.
Yeah, that's sure. I think that everything depends how complicated the business cases are. Sometimes adding fairly easy feature can lead to huge performance problems if you don't do it right. I mean, the async calls and this kind of
Exactly.
stuff is very easy to get into trouble.
Yeah, a simple
So
thing was, for example, every person that was reaching our website, there was a basket creation,
yes,
but we don't need it. We just need to have a basket when we had the first product to the cart,
right.
So it's this kind of things we have improved.
Right. I guess that I will ask you someday to create a kind of white paper on improving the PWA performance, the best practice, because
Yeah.
I think you have really, really deep knowledge on this right now. You said that first side was a surprise, like how it differs from PHP, and right now you knew everything about it.
Yeah. Thanks to you, of course, and Michael. And we discuss a lot about this, and now we know how to do it better to handle a better traffic also.
Awesome. That was my last question. Sometimes I add one more question, so maybe let me just ask you as well. The last question is always about the future trends. What trends do you track, look after, are excited about? I mean, software development, web development, front end. What's the next big thing for you?
Um, yeah, it's a complicated question. We are taking a look at a better way to show our sizes for our products.
Right.
Having a new tool, we are searching for one. So if you know a good one, I would be happy to know about it.
Okay.
We are also looking at maybe the voice, search by voice, having a stronger search tool today also, which is very important for our customers. So we have a lot of things to do. Creating a better omni-channel approach, also giving more services to our customers. And I think what happened the last months show us that digital is very important with the COVID-19. Um, we saw that from a day to another one, we can lose almost all our business. So it's very concerning, and we need to rethink some things, like maybe showing on our website a way to reach our stores with an appointment, maybe a more private way to shop.
I think that this is something that is scaring a lot of retailers right now, and they are preparing. Nobody knows what can be the next phase of this COVID, or maybe something different. Like 6 months ago, nobody believed you if you say we needed to close all the shops from day to day, and this shit can happen.
Yeah, it's true. But about headless commerce, because I don't reply properly, I think to maybe your question about headless. Um, I don't know how could be done better. I think the most complicated stuff actually is the cache invalidation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years back, today also for some shoppers on M1 or stuff, they are using varnish with ESI blocks. I'm sure
Right.
you remember. Um,
Yes.
they were like useful sometimes, but could create big bottlenecks because you were using more Ajax to render your content. So the thing I would like to see in the future is being able to just invalidate a part of the page and not the whole page. Today we store the
Mm-hmm.
whole page in Redis cache, but why don't we could have like some blocks, and like a Lego, and then you put them all together and it creates a page. So you can just invalidate just a part of it, because almost all the time you don't have to flush the whole cache for something. It's just a specific data, because the product is not in stock anymore, for example, and stuff like this. So it's
Right.
one of the things I hope uh, we will have good news in the future.
Caching and naming are the two most tough parts of building software.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, Jonathan, thanks you for having this conversation with you, and for spending time for preparing, and talking with me. That was great.
It's a pleasure, Piotr. No problem. When you want, I'm here for helping you or something. You can count on me on this. Okay. Thanks to you again, and also the people we are working with at Click and Mortar and GNG agency, and you guys also at Vue Storefront and Divante. Thanks for the very hard
Cool.
work you guys did. and are doing.
Thanks for great project we can be proud of, like all of the parties engaged. Thanks
Cool.
for our listeners. See you. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.